Folks, we're here at the Windham Town Hall, Windham, New Hampshire, November 2010. And what brings us here is this little poster behind me, sponsored by the local American Legion Post 101 of Windham, New Hampshire. 109, thank you, Director. Anyway, and what it does is they rightfully honor those who served in the first so-called Gulf War. Those young men and women that risked their life, put their life on the line, and that's commendable. The tragic thing is the UN flag across from the U.S. flag, and as you can see on in the camera here. Now, why is an American Legion post honoring the UN with a UN flag? Well, let's go back to 1991 when President George Bush, announced the Operation Desert Storm. He got in front of a joint session of Congress and made a speech that some people didn't really quite understand what he was saying. Some people didn't really pick up on it. But if you're a member of the John Birch Society or familiar with the concept of the topic of the New World Order, you book your right up. He said, he's giving a speech, and he said that this Operation Desert Storm, he said, we will have a new world order, and the UN is envisioned by its founders. Unfortunately, George Bush did not tell us who its founders were, so the average person probably thought, well, that seems like a good thing. Founders like Alger Hiss, who was a Soviet agent, the United States citizen, Soviet agent, and the man who wrote the UN Charter. So, people say, well, who cares? What's the big deal about a UN flag? Well, we want to honor the veterans, not only of the war, the Gulf War, but all the other wars. Since Korea, we have always fought under the UN auspices, with a few exceptions, with a couple of the Grenada skirmish and the Panama Canal, and maybe a few others. The Korean War, the Vietnam War, and these two Gulf Wars were fought under the UN banner, and therefore there was never a victory. Victory was never the objective. And then just yesterday, we're talking about November, just yesterday we hear about North Korea firing upon South Koreans. That war, folks, never ended. 55,000 Americans died for a permanent stalemate brokered by the UN. We could have won that war in a matter of months. In fact, we did win it if they let MacArthur do what he was supposed to do, being trained to win. But the UN and the folks, and by the way, I want to point out, it's not the UN, the bunch of third world dictators, it's folks in this country that push the UN and promote the UN and want to see our Constitution scrapped and the UN Charter elevated. So what we do here, our job is to help promote and educate information about why the UN is bad, why we need to get out of the UN. So when we see signs like this, it's not our job to rip it down or do anything immoral or illegal. It's our job to educate and inform the good people at this post. I am sure most of them have no idea about the UN, but they will have an idea as we get them in the information. And we've had success stories around the country where we've given this sound information and these UN flags come down. The UN is a world government in the making, folks. They want to have a world army, they want to have world taxation, and a world court, which they already have, and many other things. They want to have control of our seas through LOST. They want to be able to control our communities through Agenda 21, which they're trying to implement, and so forth. So what I want to do is just recommend some reading to you. If you have a love of the Constitution, and especially the Second Amendment, I suggest this book called Global Gun Grab, written by William Norman Grigg. This exposes that the UN is the biggest promoter of gun control, civilian gun control in the world. And as we speak, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is pushing this gun ban, this UN treaty, which will affect you, folks. Another book that I recommend is a very brief book called Inside the United Nations by Steve Bonta. This book gives you a little thumbnail sketch of the UN, its atrocities, and why we need to get out. And another book by William Norman Grigg is called Freedom on the Altar. This goes into the spiritual side of the UN. You'll see the front cover. And what this front cover is the UN meditation. And wouldn't you know it's sponsored by the Lucis Trust. And Lucis Trust used to be called the Lucifer Trust, but some people thought Lucifer had a bad reputation, so they changed the name of it. And all these books and many others, folks, there's books like The Fearful Master by Ed Griffin and many, many other important titles. You can all get these on Amazon.com. Some of these books are either out of print, but there's still a lot of them around. This is important information. I also recommend that you get a hold of the John Birch Society, get a hold of, find out the local chapter, and jbs.org is the way to go for that. Or give us a call. You see this this video will be on certain sites. Get a hold of the person that put this site up, and if you see something like this in your community, take action. Take responsible action. Thank you.